Hey guys, in this video I'm going to teach you about some other function members. Let's start with replace function member that works on string variables. Note that there are two versions for this function. One version that accepts a string as an argument and the other version that accepts a character as its argument. Okay, to start, I declare a variable called message and initialize it with hello world. I don't specify the data type. I use type inference feature. In this case, the variable message is inferred to be of type string. And then let's print it. And run the code. Note that I intentionally typed hello world incorrectly. Now let's fix it. So type dot here and type rep. As you see, there are two functions with the same name replace. The difference is in the arguments type that these functions take. This version of the replace function replaces one value in a string with another. So I use this function to replace hello with single L with this new one, with this new value hello with double L. As you see, this function needs two arguments. Okay. Now let's run the code again. But before that, we need to fix this h like this and run it again. As you see, after running this code, you will see the replacement is done. What's happening is that the replace function looks for this value in the text hello world and replace it with a new value and returns a string as the result. So finally, the print function will print the result of this function, of the replace function. The result of this function is this sentence. Note that we can reassign the message variable. So instead of using the replace function in the print function, we can reassign the message variable with the result of the replace function and then print it. Something like this. If I run this code, I'll get the same result. One point to note here is that these are just hints. Hints are information about the arguments accepted by a function. It's the common mistake of beginners to think that these hints must be typed. No. Never ever do that because it makes errors. To disable hints, you can press Ctrl, Shift, and A and search for show parameter name hints and uncheck this option and click OK. Now hints are disappeared, but I find the option very useful. So let's enable it. Let's search for show parameter name hints, click on it, double click on it, and check show parameter name hints again. Now let's use the other version of the replace function. But before that, you need to know about a new data type called char. Char is short for character. It's a data type that holds only one character. For example, I can declare a variable called grade of type char and initialize it with a. You can initialize a char variable by using single quotes. Note that an attempt to store a string into a variable of type char will result in error. So if I change single quotes to double quotes, we will get an error message like this: required char found a string. It means the variable type is character, but we're assigning a string value. So change it to a char value. So double quotes are used for a string, while single quotes are used for a single character. It means a char variable can hold only one character and no more, whereas a variable defined as a string can hold a whole set of characters. Let's back to the replace function that accepts a char value as its argument. This version of the replace function takes a character and replaces it with a new character. So in this example, let's back here. So in this example, I'm gonna replace the exclamation mark with dot. So I can use the replace function like this. Replace the exclamation mark with dot. Now if I run the app, this will be printed as the result. Okay. Another useful function is toInt, a function that converts a string to an integer number. Suppose that we have a variable called weight from type string that holds a string of numeric characters. For example, 40. And let's print it. If I run the app, the output will be something like this. Now let's extract the number from this string and convert it to a number data type. So I declare another variable here called converted weight and initialize it with this expression, weight dot to int, and then print converted weight variable and run the code so that it prints converted weight variable. Let's print the weight variable too. Print weight and run again. It's better to print each variable in a separate line. The print function does not move the cursor to a new line, but the print ln or print line prints a value and moves the cursor to a new line. Anyway, run the code and you will see the result. It's a little strange. Why do we need to convert a string to a number? This is a string and this one is an int value because of this function, because of toInt function. Well, the answer is simple. If you have a number inside a string, you can't use functions that are related to the int data types. For example, you can't use decrement function here. So if I press the dot and search for decrement function, I can't find it here because the weight variable is a string and decrement function only works on numbers. But you can use the decrement function here because the converted weight is an int variable. Let's run the app again. Okay, so this is why we sometimes need to convert a string to a number. But keep in mind, if the string contains something other than a number, you will get an exception. For example, if the string contains a kilogram, for example, and runs the code, you will get an exception called number format exception. For input string 40 kilograms. An exception is something like an error which occurs during the execution of an app. In fact, it's an unexpected event that happens while an app is running. Here, the toInt function except you give him a string that contains a pure integer number. But now it encountered something unexpected. So it raises an exception and interrupts the running of the app. Even if I change the string to this value, 40.20, and run the code again, I'll get an exception again because the string contains a floating point number, not an integer number. This function, toInt, needs a string that contains an int. But don't worry, we have another function to convert strings that contain floating point numbers. The name of this function is toFloat. So here I can use the toFloat function. Now if I run the code, it will run without any exception. If you notice, we have another function here called toFloat or null that returns a float. But what's this question mark? What does it mean, float or null? What is a null? To learn about these concepts, I invite you to follow me in the next video.